Hello, humans, and welcome to Fermented Fiction, the podcast where we talk about genre fiction, goof around, update each other on each other's lives, roll some dice, yada, yada, yada. I'm Travis Vermolum. That's Clay Vermolum. He's my brother and co-host. And then not seen yet are Jeremy and Colin.
Yes.
Who... There's a hand, who do some amazing work on the back end and also have some stuff to say later in the show. What do we before we tell them what we're talking about today, Clay? What's a life update you got for us?
Well, have I told you guys about my critique group yet? I don't think I have. No. I started working with a critique group in North Seattle called the North Seattle Fantasy and Sci-Fi Writers. I've tried a lot of critique groups in the past, and other than the Cascade Writers, haven't really ever found a place where I particularly liked the critique environment for one reason or another. But I'm really stoked for this group because they are a very, very awesome group of fellow writers. We have a lot of various perspectives in the group. People show up and take it seriously. Everybody reads everything and everybody comes prepared with really well thought out critiques. And basically this critique group's been so effective that for the last couple short stories I brought in there, I feel like I don't even need a developmental editor and I barely need a line editor basically. Cause they give me such in-depth and critical good feedback. So, it's really exciting to have a group that is that cohesive and supportive and dedicated to the craft, and at the same time, everybody is a writer who's out there also working and publishing things. So we kind of all have the same mentality of doing the work and respecting the process at the same time. It was really cool. Excited about it.
Nice. That is exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Right on. I've been trying to think this whole time, you have a great life update, and I don't know what I got.
This is good radio. Good radio right here.
Yes.
Great radio.
We'll use the descriptive audio, like Travis stares soulfully into the middle distance.
Getting bigger.
Yeah, you got a corgi.
Yeah, the corgi, it's not my corgi. I will make that very clear. I did not buy the corgi, but I am helping raise the corgi. And she's a brat. She's a rotten demon dog, but she's cute as a button, so we tolerate. She's getting bigger.
Are buttons cute?
There's my life update.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing, Jeremy. Where did the term cute as a button come from?
Did we used to have cuter buttons, or were things just not as cute in the past?
Yeah,
I don't know.
In what way is a button cute? Do you think buttons are cute? Do you see a button and go, "Aw,
that's cute"? No, I'm a little afraid now. I hope it's not problematic. It's very possible it is, and I'm a little scared now.
The cute as a button is a problematic phase?
Cute as a button is a derogatory term that I...
Yeah, it turns out it comes from a genocide, so isn't that nice?
Jeremy.
Probably not.
Are you serious?
No, he's making that up, hopefully.
Yeah, I haven't Googled anything.
It could be true. Who knows? Yeah, I have definitely learned that over the years that multiple phrases that I had grown up just hearing all the time are pretty not okay. Good to weed those out of the old vocabulary.
Yeah, you'll want to do that.
Yeah, weed them out. Pull them out. Because what's not cute as a button is being insensitive.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
That's right.
Cute as a button.
Okay.
Also, cute as a bug's ear, so it kind of evolved.
So it's
pretty reflective, a dainty way was that cute originally was shortening of acute for sharp-witted or clever, but in the early 1800s it also took on its current meaning That doesn't explain it.
No, because like a button is also not sharp.
So I guess it took on the meaning of just being something that is small and adorable. So like
The thing
buttons are
it
small.
literally says
So
it literally says
a
there's
button.
no good explanation for these symbols.
See what it is. The
Okay.
explanation is that, nobody understands all the words that are thrown at them in a day, and that's what cute is.
I guess so. I guess so.
English is made
What
of
are we
people
talking-
speaking English badly.
What are we talking about? Let's move on. Let's button up this terrible side bit and let's move on to the actual show. Our first segment in this show is forced enrollment. Like always, that is the debate portion of our show. And in this week, we're going to debate one of the most important African American written works of our lifetime, I think, in the science fiction genre, and that is The Parable of the Sower, book 1 of the Parable duology. So if you have never watched this show before, the way that force enrollment works is we are both going to roll a d20. The higher roll is going to defend Parable of the Sower because that is our book of the week, regardless of what they actually think of it. The low roll is going to what, Travis? What's the low roll going to do?
Low roll attacks.
No matter what.
Yar.
Yar. Regardless of what ye think of thine
What do you
lord.
think?
Yeah. So yeah. Let's roll these dice, Trav, huh? And see who's going to do what. Who's going to attack Parable of the Sower? Who's going to defend it? I guess before we roll, should we do a little summary? Do we usually do that? Yeah. Yeah, little summary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Parable of
Parable
the
of
Sower.
the Sower
Go ahead.
is a post-apocalyptic story about a mid-teens woman who grows up in a kind of like walled-off community from a very torn-apart America that is 2024, actually. So we're getting close to the year Parable of the Sower is set.
Mm-hmm.
And then through various circumstances, she kind of sets out on her own to try and find a more secure place to establish a safe kind of commune, I guess is the best way to talk about it without getting too far into spoilers.
Yeah, that works. Okay, that sums it up. It's a post-apocalyptic story, and we're gonna roll, and then we'll get into it far more with our debate. Is it ready?
Oh yeah.
Cam?
We're ready. Ooh, what a roll.
Da, 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 da. Okay, what'd you get?
6.
I got 12.
Take that, nerd.
So once
I
again,
hate this.
I have been victorious in the dice roll. Colin loves it. He's eating it up over here.
Yeah.
Colin's a big fan of
Have I
this
won yet?
narrative.
I don't think I've won yet.
You did at some point. I'm almost certain of it.
I think back in the old show I did. I don't think I've won yet on Fermented Fiction.
I don't know if you have. I lost both times you were gone.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I took on the mantle for you. It's because I drank the hams, I think.
Yeah. The ham's dulled his
Drink some
senses.
bad beer, we roll bad.
That might be it. All right. Jeremy's going to kick us off with, he's going to set a 10-minute timer, and we are going to debate until that time.
All right.
Do this thing.
Well, I want a good, clean debate, no world-ending shenanigans unless you feel like it. And so we got some enrollment coming at you in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, yeah. Oh, they tapped the glove.
All right. So I've heard a lot about this book. Haven't gotten around to reading it until just recently, but Octavia Butler lives up to her reputation as one of the most important novelists of our generation. Not just for the African American community, but for the sci-fi genre in general. She she writes with like such a masterful but simplistic prose. It really gets the point across efficiently, quickly, nothing unnecessarily flowery about it, to the point that it almost seems kind of basic when you first start reading it. But the more you get into the story, you realize there's nothing basic about it. It's extremely dense, extremely complex character development, world building. It's all there, but she writes in such a way that it's very accessible and very easy to follow along with. It almost read like a digestible philosophical text in a lot of ways, and I thought that was really awesome, especially as it is a parable. It is a story of the founding of a religion, the story of a prophet, the stories and teachings of our character Lauren, who is wandering through this apocalyptic hellscape and finding a way to still believe in something, to still believe in her fellow humanity, and to carry on with her life despite all the adversity and terrible circumstances that are thrown her way. So I really enjoyed following along with her, and I think the way that Butler did this by zooming way in on our protagonist was the perfect way to tell this story. That was my favorite thing about it. It made everything about this world, everything about these characters feel very real because our perspective was so small and close. And to me, that's what it would feel like to be in an apocalypse. I feel like I've read a lot of apocalyptic books where you get like the news stories and you get all this like exposition that, you know, frankly, there would be a lot of characters that actually don't have that. And it was kind of nice I would be one of them. I don't watch the news every day. And like, if the apocalypse happened and the internet went off and this news stopped happening, I'd be like, I don't know why any of it happened. All I know is like my community and where I'm at and how I'm surviving. And anyway, I don't want to take too much of the time before you get to say your opening piece. So I'll just state that for now.
It's hard to label a story like this good because of how bleak it is. And I think there's a lot of stories where that actually lends to the narrative. This sometimes wasn't one of them because Lauren is supposed to be this hopeful character who's finding life through all of this terrible apocalypse. But I just at times didn't believe the character could, because it's just one thing after another. We're getting into spoilers here. Like, I think it's 2 chapters from when Keith dies that her dad just disappears. And then like another 3 chapters after that, her house like burns down. And it's just, there's no space for the character to understand what she's gone through before another thing happens for her to process. And by the time she got onto the freeway and is like marching to the new place, I kind of stopped believing that she would still care about reestablishing herself. And maybe that's more on me than it is the book, but not every book's for every person. My other main critique before I turn it back over would be her age was an interesting choice from Butler. I mean, I get where Butler was trying to do. I do. I get that Butler was trying to show growth and kind of like separation from your family is how you establish your own independence kind of thing. But the way she like philosophically writes and talks and narrates the story, I kept forgetting she was 15. And not in a good way. It was never like this character is like mature. It was like, this character's like 20. Oh no, she's 15. Like, it never seemed like she should have been 15. The character read a lot older to me. And I think, again, I see what Butler was trying to do is establish that the circumstances made her that mature. Mm-hmm. But there's no other character that's like that. Like, all the friends around her that are her same age aren't as mature. All of her siblings aren't growing up in the same way. Keith like tries, but he's the least mature and gets killed for it. And Lauren just has this whole like establishment of what she knows to be true in the world. And again, maybe it's me as the audience, but the bitter theology teacher in me has heard many an 18-year-old freshman in school be like, yeah, I know, like the world's a simulation. And I'm like, yes, I also read basic Plato. Like, there's a lot more to explore, kid. You don't know as much as you think you do. Like, I never got that moment from Lauren that I maybe wanted for her to say, like, oh, I'm wrong. Earthseed needs to change in this way because I see that this is actually more of the reality. Yeah, because I think she wrote in such a real way that I wanted to see more of those real world examples. And those are the ones that I know of students thinking they know everything. I've been one of those students where I'm like, oh, I get this philosophy. And then the teacher's like, read the next chapter. And I'm like, oh, no, never mind. I don't get this philosophy, so those are my critiques.
No, I understand the hang up with her being young. I don't agree that it detracts from the narrative, though, because of what you just said. I mean, that is the way that it is written, but this is meant to be Lauren's journal, so she would write with that level of assuredness. She does believe what she's saying. She does, and she does come from a very like theological background, and like her mother was an educator and her father a preacher. So from a very young age, she's raised. She's also actively teaching from a young age, which definitely changes your perspective on how you look at the world and your ability to like get your ideas across to people. So I think she was raised to have that unique set of particular skills. And I think that was really well established. But this is something I did like about Lauren Olamina as a prophet character. She did feel like what one would be like in real life to me. Because oftentimes these like savior characters are young. They are a lot of the times like in their teens. Like Joan of Arc was a teenager, and that's not like an uncommon thing in the old great stories that we've heard so many times. So I thought it was kind of taking that old idea of like the young savior sort of situation and putting it in the post-apocalyptic setting, because in so many ways this is still just another one of those classic stories of like protagonist village gets burned to the ground, protagonist goes out to dangerous world, and it's pretty classic hero's journey, really. And to your point about everything happening too fast at the beginning, I mean, it was like chapter 7 or 8 when Keith died, and then things started to go downhill pretty fast, if I recall, chapter 7 or 8. But I think there was like 6 chapters of basically random people starting to get picked off, and it was this whole idea of like, I felt like the flood was coming, and only one person felt the need to prepare for it. Everybody else wanted to like keep living in their regular everyday life and pretend nothing was going to change. And then her mantra of God is change is directly counter to that. And I thought it was a pretty interesting conflict within that community that inevitably did come true, because change is always going to happen.
She direct quotes, like Lauren's journal directly says, I thought it would come as a meteor, but it came as a landslide or something like that, or a waterfall. But it's something like it was a much more slow erosion, which I think, again, is counter to how the narrative moves between chapters 7 and 13-ish.
Beer of the week!
No,
Beer of the week!
That's the timing.
So yeah, breathe your sigh of relief, Travis.
But don't tell us what you really think yet, because
Yeah.
we're not at that part of the show. We have 2 segments before that part of the show. 3 segments before that part of the
That's
show.
the one. Woo!
We're going to
Not one,
start
not 2, but 3.
Beer of the week.
Yeah.
Travis, what amazing beer are you drinking today?
Yeah, what do you got?
We're all
Yeah,
very,
first, then.
very interested.
I'm interested.
you guys go first.
No,
Oh.
Let's switch it up.
we insist.
Oh.
You're a bad person. What's wrong with you?
Twisted.
Does that
Flameo,
qualify as a
sir.
beer? Dude, you got a big one, too. Is that a 24 ouncer?
Dang,
That's
bro.
bedwetter.
Dog. That's a bedwetter for sure.
Bedwetter.
Man.
Many a time, many a day I drank these in college, and they were rough.
Yeah.
And
They,
Yeah, I
would
didn't
be.
drink those in college.
Go.
I knew then they were bad.
Oh, look at the color.
Ah,
Oh,
Like you drank too
jeez.
much coffee.
that's some dehydration there, fellers.
Yep.
That's what Jeremy's pee looks like.
Excuse you. I hydrate very well.
After his 24-ounce Starbucks at 9 p.m.
Man,
smells
I'm
like
sleep good.
Jeremy's
sugar
pee.
hangover. That's what it smells like.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, if you're
Maybe
going
we
to
can
talk
rustle
about
up
my
some Four
pee,
Locos for
observe
him.
it first. But also, don't observe my pee.
All right. Ooh.
Oh,
he
boy.
down that surprisingly easy.
I blinked and I missed it.
Was it
Sweet
as bad as it looked?
Baby Ray.
Easier than hams.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, they're not good.
Is there a percentage on that?
Ooh.
Jeez Louise.
I'm going to guess 4%.
They're not that high,
I think
honestly.
it's 4 or 5.
About the same as a normal beer. It's like 5%.
Yeah.
Mike's, this is a message from us here at Fermented Fiction on behalf of all of us. Please, stop hurting us.
Stop hurting Travis
I can-
Mikes. What's your problem?
I can feel it on the teeth.
Is it dissolving the enamel on your teeth?
That is
That's how good it is.
every dentist who has ever existed crying out in pain.
Did I give you a dentistry coupon on the side of every can?
That'd be a good partnership.
Yeah,
It would be.
This is specifically not recommended
Let's-
by the Dental Association.
yeah, we'll have to call up Gentle Dental. They can put the word out or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Get an AP. What would be the dentist equivalent?
An
of
APB?
What does APB even stand for? It doesn't
Ultimate
matter.
bullet
What are we doing?
Spider-Man.
All right, we'll ask Spider-Man if he pops into our universe
It's an all points bulletin.
today
What beer?
for our
What
beer.
beer are you?
Oh, loving that.
We got another one by
Good
Métier
color.
Brewing
That's a
Company.
beautiful color. My goodness.
Pale ale. There's that guy zooming on his bike.
Nice.
Gotta go
Just
fast.
absolutely crushing it. Just like Métier Brewing, which is the one of 2 black-owned breweries in Washington State, one of maybe 400 in the country. So we're very glad they exist and are bringing some inclusivity to the beer industry.
We had one of theirs last episode, and it was great.
It was
IPA.
fire.
So good.
So good.
Super good.
And we're gonna, this is a pale.
I don't want to spoil it, but my hopes are high.
my hopes are high too.
Because that last one was
Yeah.
It was a really good beer. And when I went
down.
there today, I tried a couple of their others. Everything was good.
nice. I love that.
Ah, spoilers.
Yeah.
I love going to a brewery and just everything is good.
They're in Woodinville. You should go check
Oh,
them out.
nice.
Yeah, right off the freeway. So they're very easy.
I
to
go
get
there
to.
all the time anyway.
Woodinville.
Super
Well.
tasty. Here you go, Jeremy.
Then I think. Where are we?
Pour over
Over the
place.
quartz.
Yeah.
You want to pour it all over the webcam and
You don't want to pour it all over my wife's iPad?
Not to
You
do.
don't want to do that?
No.
Well,
Just
good.
because it has a stylus and everything.
Yeah, she told me that if you tried to pour stuff over her iPad, that I should
head
beat
on
you up.
us.
Hell ahead.
It's frothy.
Oh yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Métier.
Jink, Travis.
Cheers.
Highly drinkable.
Ooh.
Crushable.
This is a good relaxing beer.
Oh
It,
yeah.
it reminds me a lot of the IPA, just lower
Toned down on the
hops.
hops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a very similar flavor profile though.
It's got some pear
Yeah, like
flavor
zesty.
to it though.
Pear?
Pear. Getting
Yeah.
pear. More in the smell,
Smooth.
but it's like very muted in the flavor.
Smooth, fruity.
I can smell it now that you say
Mine-
that. What
Yeah,
does yours
what-
taste
Mine
like,
still
Travis?
tastes like the 4th of July and puking on the lawn.
Yeah. I was gonna say it tastes like a.
God bless America.
I always thought Twisted Tea tasted like a dog drank a pitcher of tea and then vomited it to its bowl. Yeah,
That's what you always thought, huh?
that's what I always thought. Ever since I.
Jeremy, write down to their sponsor that we probably can't use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Twisted Tea. Come on over.
Yeah. Twisted Tea.
We're sure you're listening. We have Pedro Pascal over here.
Put it in, not on you. Yes, we would like.
What are you gonna do about?
What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, what are you gonna do about it?
Who cares?
Pedro Pascal does famously
We're
listen
gonna
to every
email
episode of
Pedro
this
and He's
show.
gonna be like, I love Twisted Tea.
Ooh.
As long as I can drink Twisted Tea, and we'll be like, oh,
Oh.
Maybe I'll.
Bruh.
bruh.
Yeah. Maybe I'll Photoshop him drinking one off the set of Mandalorian.
Yeah, you could do that.
You could do that.
I mean, you wouldn't have
Like
to
with the
because he
mask
loves
up,
it so much.
the helmet up.
Yeah, he pulls up the
Twisted
helmet
Tea.
and you just.
That would be awesome. I hope that picture's out there somewhere. If it's not,
I mean, he's probably got one of those ballpark beer helmets, but it's just got Twisted Tea, and the straw goes right under the mask.
God, that sounds so bad.
he's got a lot of utility stuff on his suit.
You
could
would
just
want
have
that,
right?
you know? Yeah,
On the suit somewhere, wired into the suit.
yeah. You got to be hydrated,
Straw.
but sometimes you want to be hydrated for fun.
Travis.
Colin! Fun fact!
All right, on to the next segment.
He's in a
Apparently,
different time
Travis doesn't
zone.
want to talk about Pedro Pascal anymore.
All right.
Colin, what's your fun fact?
So all you need to know is that Devil Woman from Mars. That's all you need to know. Essentially, that is a movie that came out in 1954 that was awful. And it was so bad, and a young Octavia Butler saw it and said, I can write better than that, that's for sure, when it comes to sci-fi. So she did. And she wrote sci-fi and won the Hugo and Nebula multiple times for multiple stories. I think specifically a novelette and a novel.
And if by chance you don't know, the Hugo and Nebula are basically the Grammys and Academy Awards of the science fiction genre for writers.
Yep. So, super prestigious. She lived in California and then moved to Seattle. Hey!
Heyo! Yeah. Local author, what
Local
up?
author.
Yeah, what it is.
She once
My
said that, like, she was invited to a talk and it was her and an African-American writer guy who were both in this big workshop that was done at a university, and during their talk someone asked them about like how many other black sci-fi authors are out there and that you know and their stuff, and they said we're pretty sure you're looking at 2/3. So when she was writing science fiction in like the 60s and 70s, most of her stuff was published in the 80s and 90s, but like there was nobody. Like, she was it.
I mean, yeah, because she started publishing stuff in like the 70s and late 60s. Or
Yeah.
like writing stuff, and probably it had a very hard time getting published initially.
Yeah, in fact, she had really bad things to say about, well, not really bad, but she did not like the large presses. So the big, 5 publishers out in New York City, she did not have very much success with them, and didn't really want to pursue her books being published by them because of demands put on her changes to her books.
Yeah.
So she went with smaller publishers by and large.
And it was
book
such a
was-
different universe back then from today's publishing landscape, where you
Yes.
could just like go indie. But that
Yeah.
wasn't an option back then. I mean, there was no way you could just go indie. You would have to be like basically a millionaire up front for that to be even feasible.
And she, there was also quite a big sea change, not only in the way publishing was done, but also just who was published, So she struggled with being a black sci-fi author, which basically was something that didn't exist, to by the time she was winning accolades, there were many more black sci-fi authors. And she was really encouraged by and had to convince publishers that she did have an audience for her books, because her books are very different. Like I don't think any of her books could be like copied. Like if you got a summary of Parable of the Sower and you're like, oh, okay, you couldn't write it. There'd be no way. Like I don't think anyone else could write this story the way she did. And the same with that's the impression that I get from all her works, is that she did like her own thing, and it sort of was labeled by the publisher as, science fiction and done that way, because it really is very unique.
Yeah, and it's dystopian, but other than that, it's not. I think that's why it's in sci-fi, but it's almost more literature or literary fiction than it is sci-fi, in my opinion. That might have been one of the things if I'd have rolled lower that I might have argued
Yeah.
theoretically. But we don't have to get into that because it didn't happen.
Yeah. Crazy.
Do you have any other crazy fun facts there, Colin? Travis, anything you want to chip in on fun facts?
Yeah, what you got?
Either of those
You
things?
got a thing? You got anything? Yeah.
Did it? I'll wait for Jeremy.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Jeremy, you have
Normally
notes.
chip in, but there's nothing to chip in on.
Ah. Okay.
Jeremy has notes.
Oh boy, do I.
What are they?
Well, they are some notes, and the first note I have, which should really preface everything that I say for like the rest of the episode, is that I did not finish reading this book. Now, this is what happens when I have less than a week to read a book.
Wow.
Wow, Travis.
Only me and Colin.
I didn't.
See, I'm not a working professional. What's your excuse? I don't know. But no. So,
I am.
well, yeah,
That's valid.
that's fine.
A week
I
isn't
guess.
a very long time, is it, boys?
No.
It's
No.
We definitely talked about it, and then I finally got around to it, and it was only a couple days had gone by, and I was like, "Oh, I have 4 days to read this."
yeah. It was a blitz for
Which
for all of us.
I mean, I did it, So I mean, it is definitely a digestible book.
Well, yeah, it's got a very like digestible, very sort of absorbing style, which leads me to my second note, where it is as simple in its style as it is relentlessly grim. Mm-hmm. So that's
Fact.
Yeah.
That is true.
So that's, I'd say fun, but I know Travis is going to take issue with me saying that it's fun. You got words about how fun that is?
Did you call Cormac McCarthy fun?
Boy, did I.
Jeremy loves Cormac McCarthy.
Who could say?
I do too.
Yeah. Did I call Cormac McCarthy fun? Well, whatever. But that's fine. That's where we are. Now, let's see. So, the next thing I have here is, yes. So, if an apocalypse were to happen today, I say if another apocalypse were to happen today, I would 100% miss it happening. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, that goes, and I think it comes across, like what Clay said, a lot of people just sort of don't notice bad shit going down until it's way too late. Mm-hmm. And you don't see that a whole lot in most things. I think the only other thing I've kind of seen that in is like Shaun of the Dead, where like
I was gonna mention when you said that.
Yeah.
I was gonna be
Where he
like,
has
"Well,
no
there's Shaun the
idea.
Dead, where he definitely doesn't
Yeah.
notice when
Where-
anyone is turned into zombies."
yeah. And it's so that's cool. And yeah, I do wish in a lot of things that like in most stories everybody's just like, "Oh, have you seen the news?" And they're like, "Yes, I have. It's this and this and this is going on." And in this universe, you could be like, "Hey, have you seen the news about this?" I'm like, "No. What news? Get out of here.
Yeah.
Who are you trying to impress?"
Yeah.
Guys, do you have a...
To that point, I have the Grand Central Publishing paperback version. I want to read one of the New York Times quotes on the back, to your point, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Because I fully agree with you. The New Yorker said, in the ongoing contest over which dystopian classic most applicable to our current time, Octavia Butler's parable books are probably unmatched. And I was like, yeah. A couple of these apocalyptic notes hit a little too close to where I was like,
Yeah.
you might not have gotten the years right, honey, but like
Yeah.
4 more and you're right on.
like there was something kind of early on where she talked about like people dying from measles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh,
Oh god.
that's
Yeah, that happened.
Fact.
Also,
Yeah.
President Donner says, "Make America Great Again." That's a whole.
Does he really?
Oh yeah,
Oh my god.
That's
that was one of his deals. Kind of a
And
bummer.
To,
bit of
to be clear, she wrote this in 1992.
1992, which even amplifies that point of like people would not know everything going on. Now,
Yeah.
the internet and stuff, we have a lot more access to like random information from all over the world at all times. But of course, if that went dark, we wouldn't have that information.
yeah.
So,
It's basically like that episode of South Park where the internet goes down and you see the people on the news like, we don't know what the news is. There's no internet.
yeah, basically.
Oh boy, there's a fax coming in. Oh, what's it say? It's from Chicago. They're asking if we have internet.
Gotta go out California way.
Yep.
But no, I love that zoomed in perspective. That was one of my favorite aspects of this book because I felt seen. You know, if I were in Apocalypse, I would at best be like these characters, where I'm just trying to live my life and like survive. And whatever community you're in when the apocalypse comes, like unless you have a specific community that you can like, you know, make for it immediately. Like I probably will head straight for Montana because
Yep.
got land, got a place to go, can live off that land, and like I'd way rather be there than in a city. But if you don't have something
What
like
a
that,
backstabbing son of a.
hey, let's
I mean,
leave
frankly,
my mother out of this.
Next, you're gonna tell me the Seahawks suck.
They do suck.
they do,
They-
but
How
still.
dare you?
They do suck.
Did he do
But
something?
Closest
Eric?
football team to where you live, and you
Go
have that.
Birds!
Go Birds.
Go Birds!
No birds. Not
Eagles.
the Seahawks.
As of
It's the official
They are the
stance of
birds.
not the
show.
Seahawks, not those birds.
The official stance of the
Not
show
those
is Go
birds.
Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Yeah, Seahawks are inferior birds.
Official stance of the program
Philadelphia
is Go
hates you.
Birds.
Yeah.
Any
That's-
more notes, Jeremy?
I do have one, and
Okay, what is
like so this is my last one, but I do agree that it was somewhat jarring every time I was reminded of the main character's age. Like, oh right, she's 15. But then, you know, you do kind of want that for your protagonist. My note is that it takes a young person to do crazy world-changing shit. You know?
Greta Thunberg.
So you really need that for your main protagonist if you want to get shit done all day, every day.
Okay.
Every day.
Yeah, that's all I got. You know, I didn't finish the book.
I do believe that the book does cover like a 4-year span
Yeah,
of Lauren's
It
life.
does.
Yeah, because she's 19
You go from
by
24
the
to
time, by the
28.
end, where she's bumping uglies with somebody.
well, thank
Spoiler
goodness.
Don't worry, she's 19 when she starts bumping uglies.
Yeah,
Unlike YT.
yeah.
The
Well,
book references
bumping
your
uglies with an
relationship.
older man. When she's bumping uglies with a
She
fellow
tells you when she
teenager.
loses her virginity.
Well, she's a fellow teenager though. At that-
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does
That's
start
less
bumping
bad.
older uglies later in the book, but those uglies, she has 19-year-old uglies herself at that point in the story.
So yeah, there was no statutory ugly bumping. It was all perfectly on the level.
Absolutely.
Perfectly level bumped
No more.
uglies.
Oh my god.
I think that's a shirt. It says fermented fiction, ugly bumping,
It should.
and a picture of
It is an
speakers,
issue. Yeah.
like subwoofers in a car.
Yeah.
Ugly is bumping.
Ugly bumping.
Oh yeah.
Can I just say, how did we make it through fun facts and I got notes without once mentioning, like, has anybody read the parable of the sower?
Has any?
Well, it's at the end of the book.
I haven't finished the book, Travis.
What exactly do you mean? I have read it. Yes.
The parable of the sower that the title is based on, because hot that leads into how like well written this book is.
Oh, you mean the parable of the sower?
The actual parable of the sower.
No,
I mean,
to me,
probably.
the actual parable of the sower is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. I didn't know there was another Parable of the Sower. I've not read it.
Well, her title for both Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents are based off of two of Jesus's parables. And this is getting into what I actually think of the book because I'm a theology nerd.
Theology.
Parable of the Sower. Theology.
It's that
The
twisted
Parable
T.
of the Sower is
Twisting it up.
Jesus have mad parables, dog.
Hell yeah.
a farmer went out to sow his seed.
Oh,
As
he's
he was
gonna read
scattering the seed, some fell along the path. I'm going to read it.
Oh my god.
Do it.
And the
Hey.
birds came. Are you listening?
I was telling these guys, hey,
Hey, be cool.
to calm down up there.
I'm calm.
The birds came and ate up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and
Can you
choked
put
the
this
plant.
on 2.0
Still other
speed?
seed-
Read back.
Still other
happening?
Be cool.
seed fell on good soil.
Forgive me, Father, for
Where
having
it
sinned.
produced a crop. Anyway, so seeds fall in different places. Only one falls on good soil where it produces a crop. All the others fall on bad soil, which is bad. So I think that leads into like her title is just a preview of how like in depth her theological view is going to get. But what I think is like she's telling a whole story of how that seed gets to good soil.
Yeah, and so that is the order of the parable, too. It starts in shallow, then thorny, and then good, deep soil. Because that's pretty much like how the book goes, right? She starts on this, like, what appears to be good soil, but turns out to be shallow when it's actually put to the test.
Yeah, it's definitely not giving her what she needs.
No, and then it crumbles away as soon as it faces some, like, real-world adversity, so to speak, which is, like, as soon as the walls come down, the whole community falls apart, and that's the end of that. And then, obviously, the thorny soil would be the living out on the freeway in the wild, where nothing can really grow, nothing can stay there long enough to grow.
Thorny
And
as hell,
then-
dog.
You know, the ending of the story sounds like they find their sort of good soil to cultivate the earth seed group. Yeah, that's interesting. I had never read that parable. I was not familiar with that. Nice.
But all that to say, this book's an instant classic. I really didn't want to roll low, but I roll low every damn time. And I do not agree with the point that I made. I think her age actually really lends itself to the story because, again, like Clayton argued it, like a younger protagonist has more growth to do. Young people often do spark revolutions, are prophets. I mean, talking about parables of the Bible and religion, Jesus started preaching when he was a teenager and moved on into like early adulthood when he was killed. He never got past a very old age. And then I would say one of the things that I said as an argument against that I completely disagree with myself in that argument section is I do think you get a lot of really cool notes of her like thinking she knows everything and then not, especially with the early conversations with her father.
Mm-hmm.
Like she frequently is like, my dad's my favorite person, but he doesn't know what he's doing. And her dad will literally come into her room and be like, kid, like, I get it. You have to think of all these other factors. Like, I think the survivalist kit was one of my favorite chapters when she's like trying to teach the community and they're all like, oh my God, she's preaching like the end of the world. Like she's crazy. And dad comes in and is like, you cannot like come at these people that aggressively. Like I'm with you, girl. I agree with you, Lauren, but you gotta like walk them into these subjects slowly and make it think that it's their idea. And I was like, I love that she thought her dad was just kind of dumb in that way, but he knows. He's well aware that this community can't last very long.
It's also well done, I thought, because it's not too far either way. Like, her father does not come off as dumb. And she also does not come off as dumb. And even the community doesn't come off as dumb. Like, normally that's the way it would go in stories. Like, there's clearly a villain. There's clearly people who are screwing up and doing things
Like,
wrong.
especially in dystopia stories.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like a poorly written story would basically be a story about, like, you know, there are radical conservative religious zealots, and they're the villains.
Yeah,
you know, 'cause they're
basically
dumb.
everyone except the main protagonist shares a single brain cell.
But they did a really good job. Like, her father explains, like, you can't just say that you're young, but also I understand your point, and it's actually a good idea. But you have to realize that everything you say is political, and they're going to interpret it politically. So even though you have a good idea and it's based on sound science and evidence, you can't just say that people need to make emergency kits. They're going to panic. They're going to think of differently of you, blah, blah, blah. And here's another way that we can do it.
The dad, to that point, such a great character. That relationship,
Yeah, he's smart.
so awesome. I love what you're talking about, Trav. Like, when she first scares that girl with the plant book, and she like tells her basically we need to be prepared to live off the land and to eat grass, and this girl's like, you are crazy. Goes into
I'm gonna tattle
immediately, and then the dad actually comes in. And that felt like such a real, like, human moment from a father to me. Instead of, like, he walks in and he like, addresses her in the way he needs to, but it's in his tone. And I don't know how she writes, like, the tone so well, but, like, I really felt like I could feel the way people are speaking through the way she writes.
Yeah, I feel like she probably got plenty of talks like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like, okay, just tell me what you actually said.
Yep. And I love
Let's
how the
work
dad,
through this.
And my favorite part of that was the dad was like, more than anything, he was like proud, you know, that his daughter was interested in being a teacher, you know, in being prepared, in like learning from the past and learning history and learning from these books. And he saw that as an opportunity to make her more prepared instead of like telling her she needs to stay in line, which is, you know, what you might have expected from like a strict preacher father. Like when earlier in the book, I was thinking the father was more of that like totalitarian kind of father. And that moment right there was a big turning point where I was like, oh no, he's like very open to his daughter, like developing her own thoughts and everything like that. But she just has to demonstrate that her thoughts are worthy of pursuing further, you know, like that this was a good direction for her to be going, and he nurtures that. I thought that was cool.
The father does beat his kids. So.
He beats one kid, and that is also a great piece to the father. I mean, that made him more human too, because he wasn't just this like. He wasn't a saint.
He wasn't just
exactly.
a perfect dude. So that's good.
I thought that was a great scene because you see him from her perspective, from Lauren's perspective for so long, and then there's finally that moment of like breakage and snapping with Keith, and you know that was also a relatively justified like breaking point. Because Keith like went out and lost the key to the community and could have like did seriously damage the community. I mean, you can infer, it's not explicitly stated, but you can pretty much like figure out that those burners probably come to the community because Keith told them everything was there, you know. That's obviously who killed him. So you can infer that. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was all really cool. Good character building.
I think every character's, well, I mean, maybe not every, like some of the smaller characters and like her siblings that don't have as much spotlight time, but like even the mother, I think, has those moments of like, you can tell the tone of the mother and that she's a good person. And like, I thought a lot of like some of the people in our family's like religious community that I'm like, oh, these are like good people, but I do think they would just bury their heads in the sand if things hit the fan. And To your point, Jeremy, I do think it was a beautiful thing of like how many people just either ignored or just didn't actively pay attention. I think a lot of movies and stories have copied that from Butler. I think specifically of Last of Us video game and now TV show and World War Z, where the protagonists like see the news on in the background and like turn the TV off because they have to go to work. It's not something they're like actively paying attention to. And I do think that would be my main critique of the story. I don't think it's science fiction anymore. Like reading this book was more like reading The Grapes of Wrath. It was more like reading Steinbeck than it was Cormac McCarthy's The Road. Like a lot of this could happen not too far in the future.
Oh yeah.
Well, a lot of this is currently happening. I mean, set the story in a different country. It's only sci-fi because it's happening in America.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And because it's technically still set in the future.
That would be one of my notes is like, why does she have it? To me, her power, she has a superpower, and it is that she can feel other people's pain, and that actually causes her like stigmata symptoms, where if other people bleed or she sees other people bleed, she will also bleed. But then that sort of goes away as she matures. And to me, I saw this book as very much a two-parter, and there's a sequel. Mm-hmm. And I felt like the story was not done, and that really nothing about her power had any effect on the story. Like, version A of the story, she has no superpower. She's just a very empathetic person, like Ender from Ender's Game. But in this version of the story that we got, it's an actual power. Like she feels what other people are feeling, their pain or their pleasure. And to me, it didn't enhance the story in any way. Like I can understand that she, when other people have sex or when other people are killed, that she feels that, and that's very emotionally gripping, and that's good for the story. But I didn't think it ultimately really didn't matter that much. Like she could just be a very empathetic person. She didn't need to like have a fictional drug that her mother took while she was pregnant that caused her this thing, unless that comes in the sequel, which I have not read. So I felt like that was a Chekhov's gun that did not go off.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Because otherwise the story is identical to one that's like, a family living in Ukraine right now or Afghanistan right now. Mm-hmm. Like their community is ruined. They are dealing with lunatics and they're trying to get somewhere better. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very highly realistic.
This is happening
incredibly
for
realistic.
real right now in parts of the world.
Yeah. As I was finishing the book, I was like, this could be in Ukraine right now. Like people trying to get water and stuff. All the power's out. Mm-hmm. Communities are destroyed. Things are ravaged by fire.
True.
Yes.
I think the hyper empathy or is it hyper empathy, ultra?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that. Adjective empathy. I think what it does for the character, for the narrative, is it gives her that, like, it gives her a deeper connection to the human condition. She does truly understand what it feels like to die, how that is, as she's talked about throughout the book, and it's a release from pain rather than like something to necessarily be feared. So it gives her a very clear perspective on death. It gives her a clear perspective on like what people really feel in moments of elation, moments of pain, terror, and all those like deeper connections to other people's emotions, I think give her, even at her young age, a really broad perspective on the world and allow her to be the highly intelligent, almost too intelligent person she is, and kind of gives her that prophet vision of the world, because you do kind of have to see the big picture if you're going to be a prophet that's like a genuinely good prophet like Lauren so far seems to be. So I think that's the purpose. In my opinion, that was the purpose of the hyper empathy, was like to give her that broader perspective on the human condition and a true understanding of other people. Because, like, if you have sex with somebody, pretty much everybody's going to tell you good job. Like, it's, unless they're a really big and then they'll go tell their friends what they really think. But usually, you're going to think everything went fine. As far as you're concerned, it did. Or whatever, and you don't really know what the other
these
person
idiots are having
felt.
sex when they're supposed to be on watch again.
I know, but you don't truly know what the other person felt. Same as when people are going through pain. Like Travis and I grew up with, our dad has really chronic pain and really major, severe chronic pain, debilitating, and we understand that that's happening, but we have no true comprehension of what it feels like. I could never even start to comprehend that,
Yeah.
And what it means to get out of bed as that guy every morning and start working at 5 a.m. Yeah, can't even comprehend it. But she would comprehend that, and that's going to give her a really broad perspective that a normal 15-year-old would not have. So in my opinion, that's how it serves the narrative. But what do you other guys think?
Well, I mean,
Think
there's that. It does serve the narrative in that way, but at the same time, it does read the whole experience. It reads very closely to the experience of somebody being neurodivergent or being on the autism spectrum in some capacity, because it does give you that sort of heightened awareness and ability to sort of read people and understand people. So I guess it didn't necessarily have to be that, but again, there wasn't that real understanding of anything non-neurotypical back when this was written. So it makes sense that it would be that way, but I don't know, maybe that's just how it hit for me.
I'm reading this through, as soon as I saw the title, the theology brain turned on. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm reading it from. To me, I thought Octavia Butler was writing a futuristic for her time, modern for us, Christ-like figure. And that talent of hers, that kind of hyper
Empathy.
awareness of other empathy, hyper empathy is, I think, a Christ-like component to her, because Christ, being the creator of all, would feel the suffering of the world as a whole. So I thought that was kind of a device she was using for that. And I did see Lauren as a bit of a Christ-like figure, which a lot of people might disagree with me who are hyper-religious, because, oh my God, she has sex. To me, she was a Christ-like figure in the fact that, I saw it the most in her example with Keith. She tries to approach everybody with understanding, but she's also not so shy with her own beliefs that she lets other people's influence overpower her. Because that's the Christ I think a lot of people forget, is the guy who walks into the Pharisees and turns tables over because they're being idiots.
Oh yeah,
that's where she kind of represented that to me, of there's a clear truth to her world, and it's the one that she's going to preach, but she's not so much of a jerk about it that she won't listen to other people's input into her life and understand them on a human level. And that to me was very much akin to Jesus's life of, he's going to go and preach the word and talk, the truth that he knows of being Christ. But when people come to him and say, here are my problems, here's the things I'm suffering with, he lets them speak. He approaches them with understanding, and he tells them, well, I think this is the path out of it. Mm-hmm. Follow me and you will see, kind of thing. And I think that's exactly what Lauren does.
I think that's the important lens, and I agree. And you guys have converted me.
And now
back in Bible school.
Snaps.
About time.
Yeah.
But I think what I did, and you shouldn't do, is start this book thinking it's a commercial success, popular sci-fi book.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? Because it's not a page turner. It's not a Stephen King kind of thing. It's pretty boring in parts. But if you look at it like this is a modern Christ figure with no magic. You know, we're not going to invoke, you know, God planted the seed in Mary because she was perfect and pure. And, you know, it involves getting rid of original sin, right? I mean, it seems to me like Octavia Butler was trying to write a modern Christ figure who has this ability, which is not magical. It has like a pharmaceutical basis to it that gives her something unusual that can build religion that the world needs to heal from its apocalypse.
Yeah.
Well, that's again, it all circles back for me to that point of like, this feels like that thing, but in real life. So again, like,
Yeah.
that everything about this story to me felt like if this really happened, this is what it would actually look like. Like, our prophet is not perfect. She does not come from a perfect family. She is not a virgin. But that doesn't make her any less of like a figure worthy of listening to and following and believing in, which is really, at the end of the day, what a prophet needs to be. And they need to be following a good message, which I think Lauren is, in my opinion. I would say if I was going to critique anything about this story, it would be sort of to your point, Colin. This story does start real slow and kind of confusing. It does start with like a bunch of death and stuff, which I guess you could argue is action, but it is basically 6 chapters of like, this person died today.
Oh yeah.
And
Chapter 1.
And I'm like, okay, I don't know who that person is, but
Well,
okay.
not only that, but it's like chapter 1. What is God? Do we know God?
Yeah.
Some people say God is this. God could also be this. What if you knew God? And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it starts off
All right.
like, and I was there
Hard
for
start.
it, but like, while experiencing that, I'm like, these are like very sort of. This is what I thought when I was young and edgy. This is how I thought about God. And then,
Yes.
you know, I get reminded that the protagonist is like super young at that point. Like, oh,
Yeah, definitely like
so this
13.
so this is clever, actually. Okay, here we go.
True. It very much.
But it
reflects
takes a minute to like really get into that headspace.
It takes 6 chapters.
I loved it. I was hooked.
Nice.
Theology in chapter 1? Oh my god.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
The theology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, maybe, like, I don't know. Maybe it is trivial, but also at the same time, it's not. Like, Butler really dances that fine line because God Has Changed seems like a really basic, like, yeah, edgy teenager came up with that. But when you, like, dig into it, which she does, it's a lot more complex and a lot more of a closer to a belief that I would hold. Like,
I felt that
the
way too.
myth. Yeah, not to dive too much into my personal theology, but like for those of you who didn't come to this show for religion, the more I study theology, the more I come to this thought of like mystery is the point, and that is change, kind of, in a sense. It's not the same thing, but I think I like that Butler aligns a little bit with that, probably not fully. I don't know Butler, so maybe I'm wrong. But from what I get from her book, she aligns a lot with that of like the mystery is the point. You're not supposed to, the minute that you think, oh, I know everything about God, you don't. You're like the furthest away from the point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did like her critics, in the story, and I thought those were good sort of philosophical arguments that she has with critics, winning people over. And one of them is like, you're just some girl, you don't know nothing. And then I was like, oh, but she knows that she knows nothing, young Socrates.
Young Socrates.
That line didn't come up, but I definitely thought about it. Maybe it's good she didn't include that. But I caught on that. Also, read Aristotle. He said God is change. Moving on.
Yeah.
Boom.
Who doesn't love
He did
that?
say that, didn't he? What a guy. God is math. That's what I thought the Greeks believed.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
They were rock hard for
Some of
math.
them.
Rock hard for math. Absolutely.
They loved it.
That's
Good old
another great
Pythagoras.
thing to
Good
put
old-
on the Fermented Fiction t-shirts. Greeks.
Good old
Got some
Pythagoras
math.
thought that. Good old Pythagoras thought that God was math.
Oh yeah.
But
We should
I'm
put...
very curious.
Side note.
I'm very curious.
I want a Fermented Fiction t-shirt where we have a slab of stone with a math equation on it. Maybe the Pythagorean theorem.
Like
And
a
it just says,
stone
"Rock
triangle
hard for math."
with the Pythagorean theorem on it.
Yeah,
good.
rock hard for math. Fermented
Beautiful.
Fiction podcast.
I'm very
Listen, you tuned in for the beer and you got
Yeah.
theology.
Hey, they're getting a little of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked about a lot of things today.
Pedro,
Travis,
please,
what's up, Pedro?
please say in the comments if you want that shirt.
I know he's got Pedro wants that shirt.
All right, well, great show, everybody.
Travis, what's up?
Yeah, what is up?
I'm very curious to see what the second book is about based on the title, because the Parable of Talents is like a tough one. It's one of those ones where you read and you're like, "What are you saying, Jesus?" Like, I don't.
Why? What is
so
how
yeah,
does
I'm
the
very-
Parable of Talents go?
You're not going to read that one for us?
Yeah.
I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's super long. But the Parable of Talents is the
Notes.
one where like the landowner gives his like leasers basically talents. He gives one of them 5 talents. He gives one of them 2 talents and gives one of them 1 talent. The
so
5
the
talent
rings.
one goes out. Kind of. The 5 talent one goes out and like gets 5 more talents with his 5 talents, multiplies them. The 2 talent one gets 4 out of 2, and the 1 talent buries his
Oh yeah.
and is like keeps it safe. And then the landowner comes back and is like, "Hey, the 10 talent guy, you did good. You've been a faithful servant. You multiplied it by 2. 2 talent guy, good, faithful servant. You multiplied it by 2." And then he goes to the third one, and the third guy is like, "I knew that you didn't sow where you reaped or planted. I knew you didn't reap where you planted. So I buried my talent because I knew you had planted it," or something along those lines. And the landowner is like, "Well, you must give it up. For those who have given, you will receive more, but for those who have taken, you will even lose what you have." And it's like really weird. And I don't know where she's going to go with that, but I'm excited for it.
And then they bring up Twisted Tea, right? And he's like, give to Twisted Tea what belongs to Twisted Tea.
Yeah.
Which is 10 twisted teas.
Yeah, you give
Where once
I
the
think that was in
Let me
there.
have my moment.
Book of Judas.
All right.
yeah, let Travis have his
Probably-
moment where a landowner calls a dude a lazy
Probably
jerk for
butchered.
burying his money.
Yeah. What a clown.
People who know that parable better, I
You can
probably
get so much hate mail
Yeah.
from youth camp ministers
Anybody who knows about the Parable of the Talents,
of the Twisted Tea.
go ahead and throw it in the comments, and
Yeah.
we'd love to hear about it. We'd love to know all about it.
Yeah, we're not trying to anger all of our youth pastors who listen to this show.
No,
I assume they're numerous.
if we haven't done it yet,
If we
should
haven't,
still be here.
we probably should have
Oh.
prefaced.
Pedro, if you
Look,
know,
God has changed, motherfucker.
Pedro, if you know about the Parable of the Talents, I assume Pedro
Pedro.
Pascal was given the 5 talents, because that guy got at least 10 talents now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 to 15.
Hella talents.
He's got talents
Easily.
on talents.
Absolutely. I'm glad we circled
Hella
back to
talent.
this. This is the important stuff.
It is.
So, Octavia Butler, absolute boss.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that. Coming
Changed it.
up when she did, writing completely unique stuff as she did.
I think she's going to get more widely read. Like,
I think so.
we, as a culture and world, are like seeing what she predicted. And I think she's going to get more readers as years go by. Like, her biggest audience, I think, is yet to come.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, it's easily more
was
relevant
so
now
far
than
ahead
it
of her
was
time.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
Well,
In the 90s, they were like, everything's great. Like, the economy's awesome. Why would this ever happen?
And now
How could
today, everybody's like, well, this
be
sucks and
upset.
everything's going to shit.
Yeah.
Woo!
Also, like, the world is very much more focused on amplifying previously marginalized voices now. And when you do that, you're going to look back to the people who, started who founded the ability for Black voices to even be in literature. And Octavia Butler is definitively one of those in America. So, as we continue to amplify BIPOC voices, Octavia Butler is a must-read. I mean, she is a founding member of Black authors in America, and she just needs to be respected and read as such.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how many beers, boys? Jeremy, you want to start this time? How many beers?
Okay, so how many beers, right? So it's a tough one because you want enough to like get you in, get you sort of going, but not so many that you'll like get confused and wander off. So I'd say start with 2 and then just ease into it. And then maybe you won't get vibes like I did that the story is like what would happen if the Book of Eli and Idiocracy like came together and had a baby.
Out of wedlock.
Yeah, out of wedlock, obviously.
Obviously, those movies aren't getting married. Come on.
Yeah.
Colin, how many beers?
I mean, you got to go easy. It's a lot about God to start off with, so you're not going to follow it. So obviously church wine to begin with.
Ooh, yeah.
Real low percentage. And then as things... and then as more people die and there's more cannibals, then you start popping those back.
How many do you pop back, though?
4.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think I landed somewhere in the neighborhood of
4.
6.
Start with church wine,
4
then go to the beer.
So 4 beers and 1 glass of church wine. Do you need the crackers?
Oh no, two church wine.
They are
2 church wine, 2 crackers.
well, I mean, they're sacred when they've been blessed, but I mean, before they're blessed, aren't they just like wafers or bread? Yeah, where's the theology on that?
God has changed, man.
Weigh in.
God is change. Travis, how many beers?
I'm getting together with my theology homies. We're having a reading group. We're having 4 strong dark ales brewed by monks
You'll want that.
That's great.
throughout the duration of the book.
Okay, so we're still on 4. I agree with Jeremy's initial point. I think I'm wanting to maybe shotgun my first beer to get me through the God stuff, because that's not my particular jam. But once I've shotgunned my way through the God stuff and I'm ready to get out the gates, get into the apocalypse and start shooting cannibals, then I want to be slugging down those last 3, 4, 5 beers. So yeah, probably 5 to 6 beers for me.
Okay.
There you go. It
Counting
means
one shotgun.
so much. Our rating scale, very important.
Absolutely.
Take it seriously.
Sure is.
Please take
All
it
right.
seriously. I can't wait to like get a little beer emoji system that we can put at the bottom of each one, like Rotten Tomatoes,
Yeah.
and start having like how many beers,
Oh yeah.
and it'll just mean absolutely nothing.
It means
You can add it all up.
it
You
means
can
so
average it.
little. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Math is rock hard.
Rock hard for math.
I am absolutely rock hard for math.
If you ever want me to go off on Pythagoras, I will, because that man was insane.
Is there a book that deals with Pythagoras that fits in the genre of fiction?
I don't know.
Is there a
Write it down.
math
I don't know. There's
magic
a
system?
I don't know.
Because why isn't there?
There
Why
should
isn't there a
be.
math-based magic system?
He had a whole math cult. He had like a whole village of people that believed math was God.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah.
As well.
I mean, the closest thing I can think of is, I think there's like one Mission Impossible movie where Ethan Hunt does a whole lot of math before nearly killing himself doing a stunt.
We'll need some comments
Yeah.
from fans.
Is there any math-based fantasy systems? If there is, let us know in the comments. Pedro,
And Pedro, please.
please.
Pedro.
Pedro. We know that you're listening.
We know. We can feel it.
Patrick Rothfuss he said you could literally do the math for his magic system.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true because it's all.
I forgot what he called it. Sympathy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sympathetic magic. He said he literally did the calculations.
That's true. It is mathematically, it is quantifiable, but I guess that you could call it math based since it's quantifiable.
Travis, did you hide behind the book
Harry
to
Potter's
yawn?
not.
You don't know what he's doing back there.
Good move.
What a legend.
All right, we have rated this thing. We've discussed it. We've given notes and fun facts. Anybody have closing comments?
I don't know.
Travis? Yeah, anything else to say?
This is going down the sink.
Oh wow.
That's where it belongs.
It's Travis's first DNF of the entire series.
It actually is.
I chugged 12 ounces of it. I'm not doing the other 12.
That's plenty, man. That's plenty.
Yeah. It's a good place to draw the line.
Yeah, we watched you do it.
I gotta meet with my boss at 9 tomorrow. I'm not.
Yeah,
That's silly.
If it's a work night,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
If it's any night, maybe skip it.
I would.
Oh, I had a lot of those nights back in the day.
Hey,
Yeah.
You reap what you sow.
you do. And you sow where you plant
May the force be with y'all,
with
too.
y'all. All right. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Fermented Fiction. Thank you, Special Brews, for sponsoring us. Thank you, Cascade Writers, for letting us be your podcast and for existing in general. And thanks for Métier for being delicious brewery.
And thank you, Pedro Pascal, for always listening.
Thank you, Pedro Pascal, for listening to everything we say and for loving every second of this podcast.
Pedro.
Yeah, it's been real. We're going to sign off here. Pedro, we love you, and I hope you sleep well.
Save us from ourselves.
Yeah.
Don't let the bed
Please do.
Don't let the bed bugs bite, pal.
We are a problem.
You got important movies and to make and books to read.
He's hooked.
We love you, Pedro.
That's really stupid.
That's really what the show comes down to, and of course, go Birds.
Go Birds. Woo.
Go Birds. Good night, Pedro.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're stupid, actually.
Me too. Yeah, I'm no Lauren, but I don't think it takes hyper empathy to figure that one out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and hang this thing up.
Goodbye.
Smash into the microphone. Goodbye.